You're listening to the Business Brain Food Podcast.
Welcome to the Business Brain Food Podcast, the show business owners listen to when they want to take their business to the next level. Head to businessbrainfood.com.au to catch up on past episodes and access show notes from every episode. Now, here's your host, Ben Futrell.
Well, welcome back to the Business Brain Food Podcast. This, my friend, is the podcast that is 100% devoted to taking you and your business to the next level. And the good news is, doesn't matter whether you're just brand new to this business thing, so maybe you're just scratching that entrepreneurial itch, or maybe you're like myself and you've been in business for a long, long time and you've got the scars and the wounds to prove it. No matter what, there's always something new we can do to take our business to the next level. And today, I'm going to be joined by Ben Goodman, who is the co-founder of Pod Parcel. Now, more about Ben very, very shortly. Got to be a good guy with a name like that anyway. But today's show is brought to you by maximumprofit.com.au. The team at Maximum Profit are helping you build the business that you imagined. So if you imagined having a business that was more profitable, maybe easy to run, maybe something you enjoyed more, you know, excited to get out of bed in the morning to run, something that gave you the lifestyle that you expected, but you've ended up with something that is hard to run, cash flow's tight, sales are not what they're supposed to be, and it's hard to recruit and find great people, then you need the help from maximumprofit.com.au. Head over to maximumprofit.com.au and check out exactly how they can help you build the business that you imagine. All right, as I alluded to, we've got Ben Goodman coming onto the show today. Ben is an entrepreneur and the co-founder of Pod Parcel. He launched the cafe quality coffee pod business in 2016 with one single aim, and that is to bring great coffee to the people in the most affordable and sustainable way possible. The Melbourne brewed business were one of the first to put specialty coffee into pods that are both biodegradable and compostable. Welcome to the Business Brain Food Podcast, Ben.
Thanks so much. Good intro. I like it.
You like it?
It's good.
Kudos to the team for writing that up for me.
Yes.
Yeah, well, welcome to the show, mate. Maybe we can start off, always interested to hear about why people started their business. And, the coffee pod business is, let's say it's nothing short of competitive. So tell us a bit about, what led you to this industry and how you got started.
Sure. So, it wasn't always so competitive. In fact, it was Nespresso. They had their patent for, I think, around 20 or 25 years, however long a patent lasts. And what had happened was that it expired in 2012 or 13, which allowed other people to put their coffee and the coffee pod to use in their machine. So nowadays, you see coffee pod brands lining the shelves of Coles and Woolworths and supermarkets. But back in the day, there was only a few players, and so it was funny. A mate mentioned to me that the Nespresso you could find third-party compatible capsules, and I was working full time and kind of like dipping my toe in different ideas, and just kind of clicked. If I could put different coffee into the capsule, surely I could create a differentiated product. And I just went from there.
Yeah, okay. And so it was just an idea that you had. Was it because you were frustrated with the coffee flavors that you were getting in these pods, or you just...
Yeah. So me and my business partner were working at the time. We were working as business consultants. And we, oddly enough, did have an espresso machine in the office. And if you know anything about business consulting, you work pretty late. So we go to our cafes during the day, but at night, there wasn't really a good caffeine fix. So we resorted to the Nespresso machine. But the pods, I don't know, we kind of thought it was good. It was kind of cool and convenient. It was kind of novel at the time. But the coffee wasn't that good. So really it was from the taste perspective, there was an immediate, we thought, gap to improve. But also the pods are, from Nespresso anyway, 100% aluminium. And as you know, as a lot of people know now, they get a bit of a bad rap. They're not easily recyclable. They tend to go through this recycling filter, so they just end up in landfill. And so there were two kind of really big pain points that stood out to us. There was the eco-friendly side, and there was also the taste side.
Yeah, which I think, the taste is probably the priority, I think, for most people. A lot of people are eco sort of conscious, but they don't think about it, do they?
Oh, you know what? You would actually be surprised. I think the big pain point is the guilt that people have when they're using the product. So it's a convenience product, but there's just that niggling thing, especially with more and more articles coming out about the environmental impact, about, we should become more environmentally conscious. We find that's actually the trigger for people to come check us out, and they stay for the good coffee.
Yeah, well, that's great then, because that's their hook, isn't it? They stick around. Because I think you're right. I mean, as much as those pod machines were great, and I didn't realise that Nescafe, I can't even say it. Nescafe had a patent that run out in 2012, and that is because it did all of a sudden boom, and now I understand why there were so many pods around. When you sat down and thought about this, had you had experience in manufacturing before, or distributing a product before on this scale?
Not at all. No business experience beyond being, a business consultant. I was kind of fresh out of uni. Just had my master's. I was 24 or 25 at the time when I started Pod Parcel, or the idea came to me. Had never run a business in my life, knew nothing about it. We don't produce the pods per se. We roast the coffee here in Melbourne, and we send it to a third-party manufacturer over in South Australia. So we're not actually involved per se in the packaging of the pod, more from the coffee quality perspective.
Yeah, okay. And so was that a conscious decision because you didn't know about manufacturing, or have you done that from a business logistics point of view? Like, tell us a bit about how that decision's come about.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of manufacturing the coffee pods themselves, you're talking like a multi-million-dollar machinery, huge overhead, upfront investment. If we were going to go down that route, which we had almost no money to our name at the time, barely any savings. So we decided to, we will buy the coffee, and we originally partnered with cafes. That was our idea. We would partner with cafes and use their name and their brand to kind of leverage the sales and kind of drive traffic that way. So we'd buy the coffee from the cafe, and then we'd send that to the pod manufacturer, the guy who's going to put it to the pod. He would then send that back to us. We'd have it all nice and packaged, and then we'd send that to the customer.
And was the idea that the cafe customer could then get their same coffee fix of quality coffee at home? Is that what the idea was? Exactly.
Yeah. That was exactly the hook that we launched with. Now we roast our cafe in-house simply because it just really wasn't profitable or scalable. You can imagine buying coffee from 10, 15 different cafes. You get no economies of scale. Everyone's charging you more than what you should be paying for wholesale. Kind of red flag around using their name and their logo. So there were just too many headaches from that perspective. And keeping it in-house, we can control the quality, and it's just a much better product overall.
Yeah, which is so important, isn't it? I mean, if your quality is not controllable, then really you're in trouble long term, because you've got to make sure you've got your finger on that pulse. So tell me then, when you first started, then and you had this vision of what you were going to build, at what point did you realise it wasn't profitable and you needed to make a change?
You know what? Probably around a year in, right when we tried to scale it. So if you imagine mid 2016, we launched, and we actually sold out all the pods in a day, which was crazy. We had 10,000 of them. And within 24, 48 hours, they totally sold out. And again, having no business experience at the time, I just thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And just kind of plodded along for the next 6 months. Quit my job after 6 months after launching. And then really after that, it was just me kind of working on the business, doing everything. My business partner was working part-time. And I would say about a year in, when we try to increase our ad spend, the margins were just not there to make any headway, any move, which has kind of prompted our rebrand, which happened around mid last year. But yeah, it was just from a profit perspective, a scaling perspective.
Yeah, so you realised it wasn't profitable, and then you've gone, okay, we need to change this model. So, what was that next step? What happened next? Did you get together with your business partner and go, look, I'm scratching my head here. What do we do? I mean, you both got a business consulting background. Have you found, they talk about the plumber with the leaky taps. I mean, you were both business consultants. Have you taken that, I guess, third-party view of your own business? Is that what you did?
Yeah, I mean, easier said than done. You're kind of a little emotionally invested when you're making big changes like that. We had a product that people really, really loved. There was no other competitor in the market partnering with cafes. So we had a good, unique selling proposition. So it's kind of hard emotionally to take a step back and say, you know what, we're actually not making money. This is not good if we're even planning on selling the business, let alone support ourselves. So it was really out of necessity that we made that decision, analyzing the numbers. Really, I think the turning point was looking at a cost of acquisition, cost per purchase, what are our main sales channels, and just doubling down on that. And that really prompted the transition to bringing the coffee in-house.
Mm. And now you said you were self-financed in the beginning. You used the word bootstrapped. Did that, how did that affect, your decision making and how your growth path sort of went in the beginning?
Yeah, so for the first 6 months of the business, we didn't put $1 in advertising. The main way we promoted the business was literally writing articles that we would send to online websites like Broadsheet. We won a startup award, a few other places, but we'd just write these articles that we think the website would like to publish, would kind of be interesting. And we fired off around 5 or 10 of those at the start, got some traction. We had a subscription model built in right from the start, so a lot of the customers just stayed on, which helped provide just a nice recurring revenue whilst we kind of, figure out bits and pieces of the business. Bear in mind, we had no idea what to do. We didn't even know how to send the package. We didn't know that we needed a bloody e-parcel account with Ozpost and all these different things, like from scratch, had no clues.
And so, I guess that's one of the challenges for anyone starting a business anyway. I mean, what advice have you got for someone starting a business? How do you work out what you've got to do? Or do you just play it by ear and wait for it to happen?
I mean, in hindsight, now running Pod Parcel for a few years, now getting across, I've started different things along the way, met a lot of people with physical products. And my suggestion for everyone thinking of a physical products business is to test it as cheaply as effectively as possible. And once you get traction, do not wait.
Yeah.
Go hard on advertising. I mean, we waited so long and we had such a good product that by the time we really started scaling, which was a year and a half, 2 years after we launched, there was 10 times as much competition. So if you have a good thing and you've tested it, you need to scale. You need to scale hard. And because there's a window of opportunity.
Yeah, well, that's a good message for people, because I think so many people are scared to. But how do you know you're onto a winning thing? You got those 10,000 orders within 24 hours. I mean, was that a good sign for you? Is that what you're thinking? Is you get a sign like that and get on with it?
Yeah, I mean that is an overwhelming thumbs up for a positive. That you have a winning product or a product that is in demand. But that's not a realistic view for most people. Most people aren't going to sell out in the first day. And having launched other products and seeing what other people would have done, if you have the product and you're testing it on a fairly small scale and you're profitable, so you're moving, and this comes back to knowing your numbers. If you have the product, you're profitable, and you're seeing initial success over, say, a week or 2 weeks, it could be a really short amount of time for an indication that, yes, this is a product that I can scale, that I can mass market. I would really say initial success, profitability. Don't be running a loss. At no point be unprofitable, at least at the start. And that should give you a fair indication.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was it that stopped you from scaling in the beginning? Was it just a lack of knowledge, or was there fear around it? Why didn't you scale? You had this great win early in the race, but you didn't scale quickly. So what was it that stopped you?
100% lack of knowledge. If the biggest turning point was just meeting people who have taken that 1 step or 2 steps or 3 steps ahead, so they can. And I was really stubborn. I would just do it all by myself for the first year. When I quit my job, I was just working at home. I would get up super early, not really talk to anyone, try to figure out Facebook ads and, try to scale with just the money or the few sales that we already had. Had I known what I know now, I would have said, you know what, take, and this is probably controversial advice, take $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, whatever, and go hard on doing ad spend. You'll live if you lose that money, but you gotta bring people through the door.
Yeah. So important, isn't it? So let's talk about marketing for a second, because you talk about ad spend, and I'm guessing, you spoke about Facebook, that you did a fair bit of online marketing. Tell us a bit about your marketing. How have you now gone about scaling? What marketing are you using?
Yeah, so the main funnel that we use is Facebook. The kind of, the penny dropped a little while back that, a product kind of falls out. There's two ways to that people find out about your product, right? There's inbound, which is generally query based. So people go on Google, they type in a compostable coffee pod or biodegradable or whatever, and you are providing the solution for that. So there's a high buying intent, or is at least an intent there. So you can call it intent marketing. That's generally limited, and you can't scale through that because you're inevitably or ultimately relying on people searching for you. That's them taking the action. If you're intending on scaling a product, especially in a really short amount of time, you have to go to them. You have to find where they are. And the only way to do that is through paid advertising. And so the platform that is by far, I think, the best way to do that is Facebook, and by extension, Instagram, because Instagram's owned by Facebook.
And so, you were then, you set up campaigns on Facebook and you start targeting people. Tell me about how you went, because there must have been a learning curve there.
Yeah. Again, we hit kind of like a growth plateau mid last year. We were doing around $60,000 or $70,000 of revenue a month, and we just wanted to break 100,000. I kind of had that number in their head in terms of revenue sales. We were doing some Facebook advertising, blah blah blah, and we were brainstorming all these different ideas on how to increase sales. Like kind of viral campaigns and distribution deals, going international. All these kind of exotic routes. When the thing that moved the dial was just honing in on the thing that is working, which is Facebook. Instead of spending $100, $200 a day or a week, why don't you spend $2,000 a day? Why don't you really turn that up from 7 to 11, know what you're doing, train yourself, learn, and I think that is the biggest thing that I've learned in terms of scaling a business. It's hone in on what's working. Don't think of all these different kind of exotic channels to market through.
And I think that's the case for a lot of business owners. They're looking for new ways all the time, but they've probably got something that worked or has worked in the past. That's a question I quite often ask, Ben, is I'll say to people, what was the last campaign you ran that was successful? And they'll go, oh, we did this, and we got all these clients, all these customers. And I go, well, when was the last time you ran that campaign? They went, well, that was it. I go, well, why aren't you doing that again? If it was successful, you'd want to be doing it again. What was the mindset going on there, Ben? Because you said, you were spending a couple of $100 a day and you had to go to a couple of thousand a day. I mean, that's an awfully big jump. Were you that confident that it was easy to do, or was there a struggle for you to make that decision?
Mate, you have to model off someone else's success. So if someone else has a product or whatever they're doing and they're where you want to be, and if they're selling, and in my case, a physical product, and I had some friends who were having success with Facebook and really scaling efficiently and profitably. What are they doing? I would be a sponge. I would want to learn everything that what they're doing. If we're just speaking on Facebook at the moment, you see a lot of people with very basic campaigns, very basic. They have the one thing that, targets a cold traffic, right? And then they just have a retargeting ad or a few retargeting ads. I mean, there are many exotic and deep dive things you can do with Facebook. But and I can touch on that, but you really have to be learning from someone who's done exactly what you've done, not someone from a services business telling you how to do a product business. They are different. Someone who's done almost exactly what you've done and copy them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if they've made it work, then the chances are they can do the same with your product as well. So that's good tips. Now, you have scaled the business. I think we were chatting before I hit the record button. You're saying that you've achieved to scale your business up to about $10,000 a day now in revenue online, which is incredible. So well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Would you say what percentage of that is coming from your online marketing versus other types of marketing?
I mean, great majority is online. If so, you think about it this way: if you're marketing hard through Facebook, right, you are generating word of mouth. You're not generating the direct sales that come through that. You're generating the word of mouth. You're generating people who are now searching through Google. So you get that intent marketing, especially down the track when they want to buy some coffee pods. They think, oh, what was that thing I saw on Facebook? Oh yeah, Pod Parcel, and I'll go search for that. You get the referrals, you get all the cross sales, upsells. So to boil it down, most of it is through online. We are in around 40 or 50 stores, supermarkets, but that's not the main. I mean, that's probably 5% of sales.
Mm. And so being an online store, is that a very conscious decision? You went, you know what, we're going to remain online because it keeps costs down, or we just think that's the way of the future? Tell us about why you've done that.
Yeah, I think there are a variety of reasons. One, it does keep costs down. And two, you can control the customer experience. You can control the conversation, the pitch, as it were, that you're having with the customer. If you are sending your product to a store, right, and they see that on the shelf, they're seeing everyone else. They pick it up. They're limited to the packaging, that communication. That's essentially a sales pitch. Whereas online, you get the advert that they see, which might be a video. Now they raise the level of awareness. They go through your website. You're giving them information. They're seeing the full picture of your business. So from a pure efficiency perspective, online for sure, and to keep costs down. And I think the way e-commerce going, it just makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now tell us. I mean, you started off bootstrapping it. I know you were on a show called Shark Tank here in Australia. I think it's in many other countries as well, where you were offered money as an investment in your company. How tell us about that experience, because a lot of people would wonder about the whole Shark Tank thing and how it helps getting that television exposure.
Yeah, so I mean that was a pretty cool thing, pretty nerve-wracking being on.
I mean, pitching your product to a bunch of so-called sharks.
Yeah, exactly, and you're kind of there for them to grill. So it was fun. It was great it was certainly great from I guess a PR perspective. You get a lot of eyeballs. I think it's probably 500,000 viewership on each episode. So that's not nothing. You're getting in front of a new audience. But beyond that, don't be relying on people to give you money. Don't be relying on investment. You just got to keep doing what you're doing. I think there's and we've gone down the investor route with many people many times. People reach out and whatnot, and a lot of it just falls through. You can't just have your hopes up. You go through the due diligence, they change their mind. You just got to that's why you got to be profitable as you're scaling.
Yes.
So you don't need to rely on outside money. So
important. So at this stage, those many different people that have contacted you, have you raised capital at all through those other people contacting you as a result of where you're at, or you just decided to keep it all in-house at this stage?
We have. And that was through kind of like a concerted decision. We had a big rebrand last year in August, and for that reason, meeting the minimum run requirements of our suppliers, that we did have to raise a little bit of money. But it was not because we weren't profitable. We could have done it, maybe a year down the track. But having a successful product, we wanted to make that transition ASAP. Yeah, so important, isn't it? Because
just last week's episode, we spoke to a young fellow who started a business 9 years ago, and he's just going through the process of raising $6 million so he can scale, because he realises that he needs to get that capital behind him to be able to scale effectively. And going internationally. So, it's interesting when we talk to people like yourself that have, come from startup and, like I said, your first business, and we're not talking about a business that's been around for 10 years either. I mean, you only kicked this off in mid 2016, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably in between years 2 and 3.
Yeah. So what would be the one thing you wish you knew when you started? Because you said you were a bit slow off the marks with scaling. What's the one thing you wish you knew?
Oh man, the one thing, I think if what's a roadmap from where you are to get to the next step. The one thing I wish I knew. I'm not going to say throw away things like persistence and growth mindset or anything like that. If it was really the thing, it would be, don't be scared to spend money and learn as fast as humanly possible. Make the mistakes on a cheap level, find out what's working, discard what's not, and double down on those things that are working. I think I spread my time. And I can speak for my business partner as well. We spread our time too thin towards too many activities. Product development, we go to shows, we do all these trade things and, different influencer marketing and different kind of advertising channels. Just find what works. If it's profitable and you can scale it, do that. Only do that. And then think about the next thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we go back in time, you were talking about that as you were growing, you were sort of working really hard and you were doing everything. You just mentioned mindset. Were you doing everything because you thought you were saving money or because you wanted to have control? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. I know a lot of people say, like, don't do everything yourself. And and I agree to an extent. Obviously, there has to come to a point where you're letting other people, you're letting control go. But I think at the start, you should be trying to learn everything. You should get an understanding on how accounting goes. You should do marketing and product development, product fulfillment, pack those boxes, do all that stuff so you get an understanding. And then when you're delegating it, you know where to improve, how to communicate it, how to what parts you can actually give away, and because they're not valuable or the low value tasks. So yes, from a mindset perspective, I did want to save money because there is that. I did want to learn everything though. It just generally interests me. Building a business is cool. I mean, there are parts that suck, but a lot of it, you're learning new things all the time. I'm sure you have it with building a podcast. Really anything. There's so many different elements that you don't even realize before you started that actually can pique your interest.
Yeah, and it's so. I mean, I agree with you as well. It's good to learn something before you delegate it because then you understand it. But sometimes there are things that are complex that it's just easier to give to somebody else. Like, for example, Facebook advertising is not simple to learn. There's a fair bit of work goes into it, but I can understand that there's also a lot of people who have handed it off and then they've got companies that aren't doing a great job for them or agencies. And it's not typically the agency's fault because they know the technology, they know the technical aspect of running Facebook ads, but they don't know your business. They don't know your customer and they don't understand the best way to market to them. So sometimes I think we do need to get involved in some of these things to get the best results. Otherwise, we can give our money to somebody else to do it. But if they don't have the full picture, they're not going to be able to get the same result, are they?
Exactly right. I think marketing, that's how you eat. That's how you pay yourself. I mean, and for the record, we've worked with agencies previously and seen lackluster results. And when I've brought it in-house, sometimes you just bite the bullet, take that time to learn because marketing is so important. It's how you are going to grow. It's how to get to that next step where you're going to be in a year or 2 years or 3 years time. I would keep that in-house from experience.
Yeah, which is a good tip. That's a great tip because everyone's got a different point of view, but I think controlling some things in house is always going to give you a better result. What are some of the failures that you've had since launching that you can share with us?
Oh yeah, a massive one comes to mind. So we launch. Imagine this: we get investment, a reasonable amount of money to buy a whole bunch of pods so we can meet the minimum run requirements and kind of launch. And that all happened around August last year. And so we get the new product. We have, I don't know, 200, 300,000 pods sitting in a warehouse waiting to be shipped. We go on Shark Tank. We get the most exposure that we've ever gotten. We've sold the most in the shortest amount of time that we've ever done, right? We're like, yes, new customers is going to get word of mouth. So many people are going to see the show. And the product was, it did not work as intended. The grind setting, and this is getting a little technical, the grind setting in the coffee was too coarse. So it came out under extracted and you weren't getting the flavor that we're used to doing. We knew this and we thought, we have no money, we have nothing to kind of redo this run again. We're like, hopefully it's not going to be that bad. Oh, it was that bad. It was horrific. I've never given so many refunds in my life. You can imagine selling an enormous amount of your product, getting a whole bunch of new people, and a week later inundated with complaints around the coffee tasting week, that it was crap, that we lied on TV. And the product's good. The product is good. And the issue was that we didn't and again, our fault, we didn't communicate to our pod manufacturer that we needed to grind it a little bit finer, because we do use high quality coffee. It needs a longer extraction for that flavor to come out.
So an important lesson there, and it sounds like an expensive lesson. So tell us, how have you learned from that? Are you now, when you outsource something, because this is you outsourcing your I guess that role to a third party, do you have a quality control system now to make sure that if you double check something before they mass produce 300,000 pods, or what do you do?
Yes, lots of quality control now. Look, on our own mission, we didn't test as much as we should have, because we knew we were going to get some airtime. We knew it was going to be great exposure. So we skipped a lot of the steps. So bad. A terrible mistake. Our product's totally fine now. We've got all the QA in place. But yeah, make sure the product's good.
Grateful for your sharing, because I think so many people, they wouldn't share things like that because, you rushed it to market, and, there was unfortunately there was a backlash for you, and it cost you money, time, probably a little bit of credibility with some people. So that's always going to be, as you build your business, you got to make sure you balance all of that up, haven't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about mindset. We mentioned mindset a bit earlier. Are you the type of person that is reading books, listening to podcasts, audio books? How important is your self-development been in succeeding in your business?
It is. I think there's a balance between seeking that next thing. Like I think, and I feel it myself as well. Like you listen to podcasts and you listen to people on YouTube and different things, and everyone has their own advice and whatnot. But you just have to do it. Like that takes up time that you could just be doing it, right? So there is a part at the start, and you do need it. You do need to constantly learn from people's mistakes, for sure. But I always feel better. I don't know about you, but I always feel better when. And deep down, I know what to do. If I prioritize the goals, what's most important, what's least important, and just focus on that. And if I know if I'm going to do that on a daily basis, times meaningful time period, so daily effort over 1, 2, 3 years, then you're going to see some results. There's just no way you're not going to see results.
Yeah, which is a good tip, isn't it? So if you just put the effort in and do it on a regular basis consistently, and you'll get the results. I'm hearing that a lot through this chat. So whether it's marketing, whether it's yourself, whether it's
I mean, it's purposeful practice, really.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
set a goal, focus, get feedback, and change, and then readjust. Do that daily, and you're good. That's it.
So what's the future now for you guys? Where are you heading with Pod and Parcel?
Look, we'd like to increase the line, so line expansion. So a lot of ours, we like to increase our SKUs, really position ourselves as the number one pod, the number one tasting pod, and the sustainable pod in Australia. I want, if people are thinking Nespresso, I want them to also think Pod and Parcel, at least locally. And I think there's just a little bit of work to do for us, and that will probably come in the next year.
Yeah.
One of the one of the hallmarks of a business doing 8 or 9 figures a year is that they typically have 50 or more SKUs. They have that many SKUs for the cross-sell, upsell, the new product launches, reinitiating, getting old customers who haven't bought back, constantly feeding that. People seek novelty, so positioning ourselves that way. And then hopefully next year we start thinking about internationally, step by step, local domination first, and then overseas.
They reckon if you can get a business up and running profitably in Australia, it's easy overseas. So especially when distribution's involved, because we are such a vast country with a lot of empty space, and so in other countries it's much easier to distribute goods over many, many people.
Yeah. I mean, in the US, the shipping is so cheap. The network is so good. In Europe, right? Or even in UK, Royal Mail, Australia is horrifically expensive. Massive drawback.
Yeah. So, I wish you good luck with that, mate. I really do. Now, we're just about out of time, but it's been a great, insightful chat with you. I really appreciate your open and honesty and being candid, because it does help everyone who's listening in that's, budding entrepreneurs or people that are on the journey, learn that, everyone has their hurdles along the way, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Many daily punches in the face.
It happens, but if you persist and if you're truly passionate about what you're doing, then success is somewhere in your future. That's for sure. I won't say it's around the corner, because that's never the case. I think sometimes there is a bit of work to do. How can people find out more?
Yeah, so they can jump online, www.podandparcel.com.au if they want to check out the website, or they, if you just type in Ben Goodman at Pod and Parcel, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. You can reach out if you want to have a coffee catch up.
And I'm sure all your catch-ups are over coffee.
Always too much coffee.
Plenty of caffeine going on. All right. Well, thanks again, mate, for joining us for today's podcast. We'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes, gang. So if you're listening in and you weren't able to write down any of the links that we've spoken about, or websites, etc., anything that we've mentioned throughout today's chat will be in the show notes. You can head to businessbrainfood.com.au. It's episode 214. Or you can just put the word Ben Goodman in, the name in, and Pod and Parcel, and I'm sure it will come up in the search, because that search works really well on the site. So head to businessbrainfood.com.au, episode 214, to be able to click on any of those links. Now, Ben, we've got one thing left to do, and that is the 60-second scramble, where I ask you some quick questions, you give me some quick answers. Clock ticks away, a buzzer at the end. Are you ready for that?
Let's do it.
All righty, starting the clock right now. Here we go. The favourite app on your phone?
Expensify.
Favourite book?
Think bigger. Think big.
Think big. Do you have a hidden talent?
I speak Spanish fluently.
Oh, can you say something about coffee in Spanish for us?
Me encanta el café.
And what did that mean?
I love coffee.
There we go. What's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Cockroach.
Crikey. I don't think I've ever had that before.
Cricket, a roach. Right, it was in Asia.
In Asia, of course it was. What's your biggest addiction?
I'm going to go coffee.
Of course. I won't ask you what your favourite drink is, will I?
Espresso martini.
What frightens you the most?
Regret.
Describe yourself in one word.
Driven.
Fantastic. Best way to tune out and relax?
In the gym.
Love it, love it. There's the buzzer. Thanks once again, mate. You've survived the 60-second scramble and the entire chat, so you've done well.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise. Really appreciate you coming onto the podcast. And as I said before, if you've enjoyed this particular chat with Ben, you can head across to businessbrainfood.com.au, episode 214. All the links to everything we've talked about will be in the show notes, making it easy for you to catch up with Ben and have a cup of coffee, which I highly recommend. Is go and check out podandparcel.com and check out all of the goodies that he's got going on over there. Now, if you've enjoyed today's podcast, I'd like to let you know it was brought to you by maximumprofit.com.au. And the team at Maximum Profit is expanding. We're looking for business accelerators to join the team. So if you're a business coach, advisor, or consultant, or you'd like to become one, then this position could be for you. They're expanding via way of franchising. So if you want to own your own business and work for yourself by working with maximumprofit.com.au, head over to their website, click on the About tab, and learn about becoming a business accelerator. Have you got what it takes? Head over to maximumprofit.com.au to find out more. All right, well, that's it for this week's episode. I've been Ben Futro. You've been absolutely marvellous for listening into the end of the podcast. If you have enjoyed the podcast, head across to the iTunes or Stitcher app and leave an honest review or rating. We do read them all, and we'd love to get your feedback. Until next week, have a very profitable day. See ya.